Today's the day. Old Navy's famous flip-flops are $1. Plus, get free flip-flops when you spend $24 or more in-store or online. Today only at Old Navy and OldNavy.com. Valid 6/15, solid color only. Limit 10 in stores, 5 online. Free offer valid before noon PST.
He said the door was now open to a unilateral declaration of independence after Catalonian officials said voters had backed succession with a 42.3% turnout. Meanwhile, Rajoy's Spanish government has warned that it could suspend any issue of Catalonian autonomy. Well, one of the European Parliament observers there is the Dublin MEP for Sinn Féin, Lynn Boylan. She is in Barcelona. I spoke to her a few moments ago and began by asking her what she was doing there.
We were invited by the Catalan government. They have a public diplomacy unit called Diplocat, and they reached out to both parliamentarians in the European Parliament and in the National Parliament, and they requested that they would come and just be independent observers of the election. They didn't want them to take a position on independence or not independence, but just to observe, to meet with people who are voting, to meet with people who are opposed to voting, and to then report back on their findings from what they saw on the day of the referendum.
Okay, so what did you witness?
Well, what we witnessed, the overwhelming opinion from all of the independent observers. We were split up into 10 different groups, so we tried to cover as much of Catalonia as we could, was the overwhelming desire for the Catalan people to vote, but also that it was a peaceful demonstration and that they had been left with no other option but to take this referendum, because they have tried to negotiate with the Spanish state without success. But it was a very emotional day by elderly people coming out to vote. The overwhelming emotion was one of peaceful defiance and determination to cast their ballot.
If the state was against it and the police were involved, how come the booths were open at all?
Well, it was the Spanish police. So the police of Catalonia were actually quite supportive of the referendum, and in some cases you'll see from the footage from yesterday that they were defending the people and their right to vote. So over the course of the last week, the Spanish state has attacked Catalonia effectively. They've shut down websites, they've seized the accounts of the Catalan government, and then they put two cruise ships into the port of Barcelona that were filled with thousands of Spanish police. And those Spanish police then left those cruise ships yesterday morning, and they're the scenes that you've seen when they were attacking the polling station. But how the ballot went ahead is actually phenomenal. The amount of organisation and discipline by the civic community, not the political parties. The ballot boxes were stored in people's houses. They were delivered by the public. And it was the public that occupied the polling stations to ensure that they would be able to open. And so there was a level of discipline among the general population that was quite outstanding.
I saw some protests on behalf of Catalonians who weren't in favour of independence. Was there not a case that the result is invalid by virtue of the fact that those who were against the proposition boycotted the vote? Well,
you did have a small group of individuals who obviously don't support the vote on the two parties, where the Socialist Party, which you like a bit, the Irish Labour Party, and then the Popular Party, which is affiliated with the Prime Minister of Spain. Neither of those parties supported the referendum. 80% of the Catalan elected representatives contested the last election on a policy of allowing a referendum. So they weren't all in agreement of whether or not to go for independence, but in order to allow the people to have a referendum, because every other option with the Spanish state, and it had failed. So what you see in that election was about 1.9 million people voted pro-independence parties. Yesterday in the referendum, 2 million people cast a ballot in a pro-independence, so a larger number of people. So you've now had two elections that were fought on the issue of the referendum and independence, and the number has grown in those who are seeking independence from the Spanish state.
Well, what about the bigger picture? There are 17 different kind of units in the Kingdom of Spain, and, you know, if you take out sort of these wealthy 7 million people out of the 46 million, you know, the Basque people will turn around and say they want separation and succession. I mean, is this not a situation whereby the authorities in Madrid and the overall national Spanish interest means there's a greater good here?
Well, firstly, the Basque people have a right to decide their own self-determination, as do the Galicians and as do all nations. But what you've seen yesterday is a people who have tried every other avenue. They have tried to negotiate with the Spanish state. They had negotiated a position where Spain recognised the Catalan as a nation, and that was reversed. They have tried to have further devolution of powers. That has been reversed. So they have done everything. So if this was in the greater common good for the Spanish state, one, they should have allowed the referendum to go ahead. It should have been, the Prime Minister Rajoy should have been confident enough in the virtue of the union of Spain to be able to argue that. And what does it say for the Spanish state that it is so nervous about the result that it wasn't prepared to defend the merits of remaining in the union? And if you look at the example of Britain, would allow the Scottish referendum to go ahead. But what did they argue that you were within the union then without? What the Spanish state did was they were so in confidence about the union that they had literally attacked a region of Spain. So the Catalans have had attacked not only the physical aggression you've seen by the Spanish police, but also they've had the cyber attacks and the financial attacks on the economy.
But is it not the case that the EU authorities and most member states in the 27 don't recognise this result?
Well, they may not recognise the result, but the European Commission and the various member states have the right to recognise human rights and the right to recognise international law around your right to self-determination. And the position of the Commission now is an absolute disgrace in what Jean-Claude Juncker came out with today. They should be going in to try and mediate the situation, trying to create a space for dialogue, not throwing petrol onto the fire that has resulted from the referendum results. So it's not about taking a side on independence or not independence. If what we saw yesterday took place in Turkey, the European Commission would be very vocal talking about you cannot attack peaceful citizens who are purely just trying to cast their vote. You can't do that. Scenes we've seen yesterday were shocking, and that they were taking place in any European country. I mean, and also the European Commission is quite able to take on the Polish government and condemn actions that they're taking. So they're keen to intervene when it suits them. But because of Spain and because of, I suppose, the impact maybe on the euro, if Catalonia voted for independence, is clouding their vision. But they do have a role in terms of dialogue and being mediators, and not doing what they did today, which is to make the situation even more entrenched.
Finally, where do things go from here? The Constitutional Court and the government have said they're not going to recognise this. What do you think will happen next?
Well, what we're hearing on the ground here in Barcelona is there's an expectation that Prime Minister Rajoy may move to prosecute the Catalan government. They've already threatened disproportionate fines against anybody who facilitated the referendum yesterday. So there may be a case where you're going to see Puigdemont being arrested because he facilitated that referendum yesterday, which is absolutely the wrong approach to take by the Spanish government. But given that the Spanish government have acted in the way that they have, I would imagine that that's probably what we're going to see now, is a further escalation against the Catalan region, as opposed to what we do need, which is dialogue and calm heads.
No, what I meant was,
find a way out.
What I meant was, what will the Catalans do next?
Well, I mean, the expectation is that the Catalan government on Wednesday will declare independence, and that's their intended. They said that if they got 1.7 million votes in favour of independence, that's what they do. But that's what they would do. They've got 2 million. They've had another up to 800,000 ballots that were seized. So they've gotten well above what they had said would be enough for them to declare independence. So it's expected that they'll do that on Wednesday. And that's when the reaction from the Spanish state will be critical. And the expectation there is that the Spanish state will then move to arrest the Catalan government.
This is Julie.
Hey, calendar, what's my morning like?
Julie's about to have a long day.
At 9 a.m., soccer carpool. 9:10, purchase birthday card. 9:05, dry cleaning.
Did you just go backwards?
I'm sorry, I can't fit that question into your schedule. 9:15, cry for a little bit.
For days that won't end, let Schwann's help. With Schwann's, you can get delicious meals that go from freezer to table in minutes, not hours. Ordered, delivered, done. That's homemade easy. Visit today at schwanns.com.
And here is one of the most popular pieces in the gallery, the duality of McDouble.
It's so powerful. Can you feel the cheese melting into the patties, creating synergy, capturing the essence of McDouble?
Yes. Okay, no, but I am hungry.
Perfecto.
Whatever your taste is, it's delicious. Get 2 classic McDouble burgers right now for just $3 on the $1, $2, $3 menu. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal. Single item at regular price.